The spirit of the holidays will always be as long as we stand heart to heart and hand in hand.
Look for the silver lining whenever a cloud appears in the blue.
Hello and welcome to Between Us. Make every conversation count. Today is a very special episode because it's the holiday episode and because I have two guests instead of one. Our first guest, Geetika Kapoor, has been already on the show and we all know how wonderful she is. She's a consultant school psychologist. And we have Aditi Kaul, who is an expressive art-based therapist. And together, the three of us are going to talk about how do we lift ourselves up during this holiday spirit, because all of us are moving into a new year with the holidays. But at the same time, there are many of us who don't feel that good, who don't feel that positive. So know that just because this year did not go well, it does not mean that the next year won't. So we're going to talk about how we can lift ourselves up and how we can make our life more joyful and meaningful. Geetika, Aditi, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Welcome to the show, Aditi. Welcome to the show, Geetika. Thank you for coming again. It's an absolute pleasure. So, today's episode is about the holiday spirit. Let's begin with, what does holiday mean for you? Aditi, let's begin with you.
So I think for me, the holidays have always meant family, community, having a lot of fun together, music in the house, candles, light, warmth, and really just anchoring in and taking that time out to spend time with the people you love. Food. So anything that just fills you up, I think that's my sense of the holidays.
Okay. Geetika, what does holiday mean for you?
Family, almost. Coming together, people sitting together, doing stuff, cleaning the house,
Okay.
delegating chores to each other and saying who's doing what.
That goes absolutely well with your personality. Getting people to do the job.
Team, it's like actually just being together is what holidays mean for me. A lot of halla gulla around me. So in hustle bustle, food is always, so we are never sitting in one place and eating.
Okay.
We are munching and moving around and doing stuff till we all like tired and stop. So
Okay.
that's the spirit of holiday for me.
So, friends, family, food. But I think both of you missed out. I don't know if I am in that position to say. What about you? So, my question about holiday spirit was to both of you was, what does it... Do you have conversations with yourself before every holiday?
Oh, wow. So you're asking that to a psychologist, right? So
I'm asking that to a psychologist, but I'm also asking that to Geetika as a person, Aditi also as a person, because I think we don't ask this question enough.
So I say, when you say we, we as a group of people need to do that more often.
Yes.
And where I kind of do not separate Geetika and the psychologist, because if they've kind of merged together as one.
Which is fine.
So reflecting, talking to ourselves is kind of an ongoing habit. It's kind of now inbuilt into the system like that. But it's a good reminder to say, did you stop and reflect?
Yes.
Did you talk to yourself? Did you notice where you are, where you're headed? What is it that's working out for you? What is it that you want to maneuver a bit? What is it that you want to align differently with who you are as a person? What qualities you value in life? So yeah, stopping and just seeing where I am.
Aditi, what about you?
No, and just from what you're saying is also just recognizing and taking a pause to see and feel incredibly thankful and grateful for what you do have. And I think, that in contrast to recognizing that not everyone or not even yourself will have that every year. whether it's an experience of loss of any kind, challenge of any kind that you go through in any frame of your life. I think it really is a space to pause, and very often holidays bring up the gaps in that. They make you miss or wonder. So that's, I think, the other piece of reflection is that just incredibly grateful for what you do have, while allowing yourself the space to feel whatever you're feeling, whether it's grief or vulnerability or anger or frustration for the things you don't. So yeah.
So true. I don't know, while conversing with both of you, I'm reminded of 2017, because December 10th was when Dad passed away. And me and my brother, we were a little lost, because December was a month when I would always fly back from the States, be with Mom and Dad and my brother. And I remember, so I have this habit of journaling. So I took out a special journal for my dad's treatment, like the entire thing. And I remember I had come down to India 2016 for the Make in India conference in Feb, when Dad was diagnosed. And the doctors said he has about 3 months to live. But he lived for almost 16 and a half to 17 months, went through chemotherapy and everything. And me and my brother, our biggest concern, because my brother is a professor and he travels a lot, is that what would happen to Mom? And we realized that, and why I'm bringing this up is that holiday year was super special, because she was our backbone, she was our strength, rather than we being hers.
Yeah.
And I remember she telling us that this holidays, let us celebrate Dad's life and how he made his life and all of our life, beautiful. So, and I think I have been a lot more mindful after that. This happened once, I think early 96 or 97, I lost my grandmom who raised me for most part of my life. That she passed away somewhere in June, July. So I think by the time it was Diwali and November and December, probably a lot younger. I didn't process it as much. And we had our exams and stuff like that. So, but after 2017, and that's the reason why this episode is even more special for me, is we became a lot more mindful and grateful for all the things we have, and to remain grateful, because sometimes we don't realize when we lose someone or when we miss out on something in life. So I think that's really awesome. Just leading on to this question is, if I were to ask both of you, what are the 5 things you guys are grateful for in your life?
5.
So many more.
Yeah.
But 5 things you feel you're grateful for.
So I would definitely say family.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of support system that I have around me has been amazing. Makes a lot of struggles just easy by having all those people around to talk to look up to hold me when I need it. I've had great education. It's made me who I am. I just feel amazed by what all people are doing in our field, how it's shaping up. And to be able to, reach out to all the knowledge around me
And create an impact in their lives, changes in their lives.
So one, I would say what I have got in terms of my fraternity, the learnings I have had, I just feel great about it. And sometimes we kind of feel I'm in this pigeonhole. There's so much happening around me. But then when I look at all the opportunities I've had in my life to reach out and just stretch myself and go places and find out what's happening around is amazing for me. And when I look around and say there's so many people who are not getting those opportunities.
Right.
And then I'm able to be that person who's sharing back and saying that, this is what I have learned. Or how about I give it to you? So that's wonderful for me.
So giving back.
Giving back.
Okay.
Yeah. It comes kind of to me naturally. Aditi, you take
5.
turn. Yeah, I'm kind of.
So we'll come back.
Okay,
We
yeah.
can take
Aditi.
turns.
So I would echo family. And family for me also includes an extension of very, very close friends, that is just family. I've known them since I was 2 and, inextricable part of my life. I think that would be very, very much front and center. Same reasons, so thankful, support, backup, home, safety. Also, I think my work. To be lucky enough to do what you love and more or less come into work every day, leave every day, more or less. Of course, there are hard days, but excited and motivated and wanting to do this is such a blessing. And I know more and more now working in the field that not everybody has that, option for them. And right now, the third that's, coming to me is also just, again, very, very, what I love is travel. So very thankful that I'm able to make the time, find the time, have and build the resources to be able to travel, which is just, again, just magical.
Awesome.
And as I was listening to Aditi,
I'm loving
I
this.
felt that, I know COVID was a very hard time for all of us. But what effect it had on me, I am kind of thankful that that time happened. I paused for the longest time, and it was a forced pause. I would not have if it had not been that harsh and said, get indoors and just be in a place.
As they say that when your the way you look at the world, the way you look at life in general.
I think I discovered sides of me I did not know are there.
Like?
Creative. I took to art, which I had never tried before. I've had, my sister is a great artist. She does stuff. But I almost kind of admired her from distance and say, wow, you do it really well. But then I discovered it and I was like good at it. And so that was my discovery.
Okay.
So I discovered a lot of alternate things to do rather than just focus on work. And through that, I've found that I can engage with children. I work with children, right?
I was just about to.
So they have gotten interested in things I am discovering.
Okay.
So whenever they come to my place, we are working together and they have pottery. I'm doing pottery these days. I am doing a lot of acrylic as a medium, gardening. So all my students are exploring that with me. So
all of these are interesting topics. So we need to get you on gardening podcast, pottery podcast.
So I will not even say like expert, but I think it's just discovering those sites which were there dormant. I was not exploring it much, but then opportunity just showed up.
This also shows that we were so much into the daily things of life that when you got to get that pause, you were able to discover so many other aspects of your life, isn't it?
And holidays do that too.
Exactly.
Same thing. That holidays will hit the brakes and say, okay, now pause. Now ye karo. Take the time out too.
But the question is, do we really do that? Because we are all into rishtedar aa rahe hain, friends aa rahe hain, let's have mithai, let's do this, let's do that, let's go on a holiday. And do you feel that at least people should, because not everyone is having the kind of time we may have? For example, there could be people who've not really had a great year. Maybe all three of us had a great year, right? But they also have a right to enjoy, or at least, know that the next year may turn out to be a great year, right? So self-reflection, and that's the theme of this episode, like pause, reflect.
And like what you said, I think is reaching out to the other deliberately.
Yes.
Looking out for who is alone. So again, in my work, we have this dialogue a lot that if there is a group of kids, generally they get busy with themselves, right? And then there is a loner in the class who's just sitting by themselves. Or sometimes children tend to leave somebody out in saying, we're not going to be your friends. In saying, reaching out deliberately as a habit, as a ritual, in saying, whom did I connect to?
Right.
Not my usual, not my family that's available to me, because that's going on in a way in an automatic mode, right?
But you know what, Geetika, and I'm sure Aditi, you will agree to this, is that even within family, when we sit down and meet, हम actual बातें कभी करते ही नहीं है. Like I have, at least in my family, I've had this experience a couple of years back, where one of the family members who were she was about to move into undergrad, and we realized a chance conversation. We realized that she really didn't want to move out of the country, and she didn't want to move. She scored those numbers because there was absolute push from the parents to do it. And it was a public gathering where she literally burst out in one of the conversations. She literally walked in and said, I think I've shared this with my podcast team. She said that, I didn't ask you to bring me to this world. And if I have, you don't have that choice to decide. And that set me thinking. And as I was designing and writing for this episode, I realized that we don't do enough conversations even with our so-called friends or family members. It's always a top, ऊपर ऊपरी की बातें करते हैं, और कैसे चल रहा है, काम कैसे चल रहा है, job कैसे चल रहा है. There are no real, superficial.
But I don't know, as therapists or whatever, I feel like it's like, I don't know if it's professional or personal hazard, but हो ही जाता है beyond superficial. But you're right. You're absolutely right. Very often in general, there's a lot of...
Correct.
We don't bring up
you
stuff.
Remember the movie Monsoon Wedding? And if you have watched the movie, towards the end, what comes out?
Yeah.
And I just realized that holidays, like the way you said, pause. I definitely will never use the word holiday for COVID because of what happened. But it actually forced us to look back within us and people around us. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. And the reason why I have the two of you is because you deal with people, issues. I mean, you deal through art therapy, you talk to children. But I think the conversations you have with children, the same kind of conversation needs to be had with adults too.
Yeah.
We tend to think we are grown up. We don't. I think it's absolutely wrong.
And it's so one, I think, when popularly holidays and holidaying has come to be equated with a lot of action,
Absolutely.
which is kind of opposite of pausing.
Yes.
And a lot of times it can have a very kind of a predetermined, automated kind of sequence to whatever we end up doing. And unless we are really noticing and moving in with awareness, is it what we want to be doing? As a group, as a family, as a person, or is there something else? And to have that alternate voice, creating that space of someone who said, I do not want to do this.
Yeah.
I want to do something else. And that would then be also a spirit of, are we including other voices which are different from ours?
Yeah. And sometimes I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, both of you are experts, but I think sometimes there are multiple voices within us.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And isn't it?
Yeah,
And we just don't pay heed to them. Right? Sometimes, I mean, the whole idea of even holidaying for that matter, you have people, I have friends who come and say, yaar, mujhe ye break bilkul chahiye. I just want to take a break and go out somewhere. But most of the time, you land up being with your spouse, your friends, or someone. I think of late, this whole idea of going up to the mountains and being alone and all of those, I think post-COVID, it has started a lot more. Like I have a friend of mine, post-COVID, for the last 3 years, he's married with his wife and kid, but he says, yaar, main ye 3 hafta na apne liye leta hu. I just go on a holiday not knowing who I'm going to meet. And I just take time for myself. And I realized that this is such an important, conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah. But you know what, circling back to something you were saying, and I've been thinking about it, is that when you feel like you really need a holiday from your life, then we need to re-examine life.
Right.
You know, because it's just interesting that it's something like we really need to like separate. And then the other one is I hear people come back and say, I need a holiday from this vacation. Like this month of November has been, I need a vacation from this month.
Yeah.
Or like a holiday from the holiday, off the holiday to recover.
Right.
So I think that I feel like is one gap. And the other thought that came to me as you were talking was also that adults and children, the difference is that something I find in my work is it's far easier to work with children in terms of creating, once you've created a safe space for communication, they communicate.
Yeah.
With an adult, because of those multiple voices you've talked about and those layers we build up, it's actually far harder to get adults back into a space of understanding what, you know, you were talking about discovering in COVID, which is novelty, creativity, and joy.
Yeah.
And some of those things being anchor points in how we actually then deal with everything else in our lives.
You know, something came up while we were talking. I remembered. I think it was late 80s or early 90s. My mom said, too much of work. She's been a homemaker. I'm going out with my friends. And I remember when she was, making those calls to her friends, my dad just, asked her to pause. And he said, do you really need to go out with your friends? Or do you just need to take a break for yourself and go to a place where you want to just relax? And my respect for my dad, just both me and my brother, we've looked up to him. And my mom actually took that break for herself, because he used to tell me a lot. He used to say this, that sometimes you need a break yourself. It's not your friends, it's not other people. Sometimes you need to learn to converse with yourself and ask yourself. Because I think what happens is that I don't know, it's a strange thing, but we always ask for boundaries in our relationships with other people. But somehow we don't learn to set those boundaries for ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? We just keep pushing ourselves. And for me, you call it a holiday, which I feel should be there all the time. It's not just the holidays. Just keeping in spirit of the holidays. I've always felt that even if it's for a day, that should be just you. Because I think when you are happier from within, you are happier, the environment around is happy. And I've seen so many such family gatherings where everybody seems to be going with the flow. And I'm not trying to create anything revolutionary out of this episode, but I feel that that's sorely missing. Like, I still see my friends planning out vacations already. And what are they planning? 31st ko kahan jana hai? I'm not saying don't go and enjoy, but I don't think that's what the solution to what they're trying to do. Because, as you rightly said, for New Year's ho gaya, now I need a break to get out of it. And people might be thinking ki bas ye mazak kare, but no, they are exhausted from within. Or maybe the break they really wanted to take, they never took. Right? I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm listening to you and I'm remembering a conversation I had with a 16-year-old.
Huh?
As they're recounting, what happened, what was troubling, what they didn't like about something. And we noticed that they're talking about all other people, they said something, they were like that, mom did this, dad did this. And my question was, what were you going through? And it took us quite a bit of time, almost 30-35 minutes into the session, that the first statement came from them was, I was exhausted.
Exactly.
And as a habit, I would say, well, congratulations. It was the first time in last 35 minutes that you spoke about yourself.
True.
What you were going through. And that is like a habit with all of us, when we say we look out, we look at everybody else. It's a natural instinctive response of notice everything else, everybody else, but not us.
Yeah.
Because we are not programmed like that.
True.
And this is now a deliberate habit to look within. Because one has to, it doesn't come naturally, for sure.
Absolutely.
right? And unless one becomes aware about this and says, oh, wait, what am I feeling right now? What is my experience?
Hmm.
So when your dad pointed out to your mom, you want a break with yourself or with your friends,
Yes.
was a question to look within
Hmm.
and say, what do you want? Right? And more than what do you want, to know where am I right now?
Hmm.
What am I going through right now? Which tells us the next step. But a lot of times, if somebody, so you asked me 5 things, right, that I'm grateful of,
Hmm.
about. And for me, it was like, what?
Mm.
It is difficult to come up with 5 things. I mean, obviously, that list is long. But to say, have I reflected enough?
You said the list is long, and yet you could not go beyond 3.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
So that is, and I use the word deliberate there again in saying it has to be deliberate. Otherwise, I think the society around us has set us on a clock.
Yeah.
You do this, and
Yeah.
the 31st is one such clock,
Yeah.
right? That everybody is programmed to think certain way, to do certain activities. And then for me to say, do I want to go with it?
Hmm.
Or do I want to now see what do I want to do?
Hmm.
Second thing that was striking me when you were talking, both listening to both of you, I think as parents, people who are in role of caretakers, being caretakers themselves, they go by a lot of years. They don't get that time
Yeah.
to stop and think. They don't have the liberty,
Hmm.
if I may use the word, because they're so focused on children and family and providing for everybody
Hmm.
that they get lost. So, as parents, how consumed we get in taking care
Hmm.
uh, of the child, the family, providing for everybody. So, again, I'm working with a family right now, and my memory is going to them
Hmm.
when they want to correct the child or
Right.
help the child. It becomes about them. And then if I were to also like how much the child is on the screen, no? And if I have to pause and say, what do you do when you get bored?
Hmm.
What do you do when you get tired? And for them to say, what do? We don't do anything. And that's where, for me to realign the parents sometimes is a journey, because it is not about the child then.
Yes.
But I've realized this working with so many families and even watching people around me as parents is it consumes, that role consumes people. And it is almost, I have a friend whose youngest daughter is now 27, getting married. And she's kind of thinking, what next? It's almost like, and her older one is, I think, 32 or 33. It's been 33 years that she's actually not thought about what she wanted to do. That's about losing yourself in parenthood.
Hmm.
And it just happens.
That's just my perspective, but I feel that we just don't want to take a hard look at ourselves. We just don't want to. So we say, I'm busy with this, I'm busy with that, I'm busy with this, my own work. I think taking a hard look at yourself is so very important, because there, the buzzwords are post-COVID, self-growth, self-love. Half of the time, I think we really don't even, we just say those words, but not even understand what that really means.
So I think, Santosh, in this, looking at ourselves is not natural to humans. When life happens, I mean,
Yeah.
think when we are like young, when we are children, we are going with the flow. When we become adults, life is just unfolding and opportunities are showing up.
I feel as
And-
kids, I mean, you both deal with kids. I feel children take a lot more hard look at themselves and others, maybe at a subconscious level.
They have a lot less barriers initially until we perhaps quote unquote ruin them. I think they are a lot closer to themselves and they haven't been removed from themselves as adults. As life unfolds, things keep adding up, right? And we learn to sit straighter, talk a certain way, dress a certain way. So there are barriers across the board that we build to present a certain way, whether we know it or not.
Okay.
And then what you're also talking about, which is that reflective distance often comes only when we become conscious about it or are deliberate of it, or someone else helps us do that. So it's far less about just like, things happening and I'm not doing it on purpose, as much as it is about genuinely the brain not taking that, not being able to make that split, because we are this as far as we consciously know.
My neighbor's daughter, and she calls herself my BFF. She's all of 12. She walked up to me and the other day she said, she calls me San. That's her nickname for me. And she said, San, you know what? Sushma teacher comes and tells us pay attention all the time. But I don't think she's paying attention to herself. And I asked her why. She said the way she dresses up. Sometimes she's writing on the board and then she pauses for some time. And she said, she keeps telling us, if you have any questions, ask me. I don't want the grades to go down because you didn't ask. I hope there is somebody, and this is absolute honest truth, there's somebody who's also telling her to pay attention. Right? And I just recollected this conversation, very recent. And that's when I realized we were talking about barriers and you were talking about responsibilities. I feel that most of those barriers are actually created by ourselves and not by the environment around us. I don't think there is anyone who actually tells us कि आपको कैसे बैठना है, किस तरह से dress करना है. It's a lot about, and especially in today's world, if you look at the organizations today, they're all moving into that, informal setup, open
but
workplaces.
वो भी एक तरीका है. So it's a, मेरे हिसाब से,
I'm just sharing my perspective.
No,
please.
you're right. But it's like this inextricable dance of what is telling someone.
Yes.
Is it me saying, Santosh, aise karo, aise baitho? Or is it everything? It's how it's set up. Yeah. It's how... So it's a reciprocal sort of feedback, right? In how we live, when we work with children, what we tell families is what you do, they will learn.
Yeah.
So really, you telling them aise baitho, aise kapde pehno, phone dekho, mat dekho is far less impactful than what you do.
Yeah.
And then what the world around us does, or our workplaces do, or maybe hearing a boss validate or invalidate a colleague for something, whether we like it or not, it's all becoming us.
Yes.
So it's very hard. And you're right, there are people in our lives, or there are moments, like you were also sharing, I think that you can chalk it up to where you're like, this is when I got perspective.
Yeah.
This is the moment it changed or started changing for me.
But I think it's a gradual progress. Isn't it? It's not as if, one fine morning you wake up and you are all enlightened. It's a series of experiences.
It's a process. Yeah. It is definitely a process. And picking from what Aditi said, there's always some moments in people's lives. Some people have it young. Some people have it, when they're much older. But there are moments that make people question what's happening,
right,
where they're headed.
Right.
And there is this dissonance within where things do not seem in the right place.
Correct.
We don't seem like fitting, or the life doesn't seem like fitting. Questions that even, I work with young people and they would ask that, I notice where I am, but I don't like where I am.
Yes.
This is not what I had in my mind when I started the journey. So that's that dissonance where the opposite we say in our field is we all have a coherent sense of who we are, right? And whenever things kind of become jumbled up, they don't fit, we start questioning what's happening and the restlessness that comes as a result of it. Sometimes that restlessness is so much that the person cannot contain it.
Yeah.
And that's when we need support systems around us. We need people who help us think through what's happening. Also, saying that this restlessness is okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with you if you're going through this.
Hmm.
And it's good that it has happened.
Hmm.
But also, who holds our hand through that moment? Who helps us discover, rediscover?
Yeah. And I think in many a times, what my personal experience have been, because like I grew up an absolute introvert kid in that sense. I don't want to go out. I just go to school, listen to the teacher. My friends were my teachers. I'll finish off and I'll come back. And I think at that point in time, what my parents realized is that there is no way I can push the kid to do, right? So the only way is, let's allow him to express himself. So in my case, I was fortunate that painting, writing, reading books. And I remember this incident when I walked up and my dad had said, I really like this place. And he said, for that to happen, you'll have to step out of the house to see the place. There's no other way. And it took me almost a month after resistance. And I said, Dad, please take me to this planetarium. I really want to go. So I think the first barrier or resistance has to be broken by us rather than anybody else. Because I feel inherently, I believe that this world is a good place, despite all of the things that are going around us. And if we really reach out, and that's where maybe people like you come, where you probably allow them to express and tell them that, there are people who can help you out. Right? And I think to me, that is the spirit of holiday as far as I'm concerned. Because I feel that at least somewhere at some point in time, when you are around people you feel comfortable with, maybe you will have the courage to, come out and say, like as my niece did in a group, that I don't want to really go. And I know that. And so when the father said, I've set aside money for you, she said, I never asked you to. And I'm so glad she's finished her high school and she's now learning music and she just wants to do that.
And on that note, research has that established. It takes one person in life. It just takes one person in life who looks at us and says, you've got it.
But don't you feel that one person should be you first before anybody else?
Oh, wow.
If it could.
If it could, but also understand the human connections. Humans are
absolutely
social beings. The reflection of us in the other. One out of 6 pillars of well-being, emotional well-being, is connecting with others, having meaningful social relationships.
Absolutely.
And giving to the other.
And the stress is on the word meaningful.
Meaningful, yes.
Because
And
we have
other.
too many social connections, but the meaningful ones
Thanks
are what?
for emphasizing the other. What the other does to each human being. So what makes my existence more meaningful is the people around me and the way I relate to them and then how they relate back to me.
Yes.
That ongoing, Aditi used the word dance earlier. That ongoing dance is what makes life flavorful
Right.
for us to carry.
Okay. On that note, when you said people who you can connect with, but for you to be able to know that these are the kind of people I am able to connect with, I need to know a certain amount of me, right? And I guess coming to you, art is a form of expression, and which is what I believe you are into or focused on.
Yes.
So if you can share something about that.
So there's a lot, but I think I'm going to stay on this track and kind of loop art in there. But it's circular. You can't remove self first, other first. There's no hierarchy. There's no otherwise. And I tell my clients this sometimes, that we would potentially be born on isolated islands in silos somewhere if we were to have this all figured out by ourselves. I think what art does or brings us back to is what we were as children, right? Which was what? when you start off, how do you move? How do you talk? How do you communicate frustration, anxiety, fear? It's done through the body. It's done through sensation. It's done through voice. And suddenly as we grow, it gets taken away.
Yeah.
Or we start altering that.
It's also done through silence, absolute silence, right?
Whatever that mode of communication might be. Now, art comes in to bring us back to that in a sense, right? If I talk about, because you mentioned adults, is that you give another voice for somebody to be able to dialogue with the self beyond conscious awareness. As we grow, we become extremely verbal.
Absolutely.
So I can say, what have you gone through? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? I can be very articulate about my struggles, my traumas, whatever, if I've thought them through.
Yeah.
But the difference is that very often there's this big gap between what we think, so the cognition piece of it, what we're feeling. So very often we'll say we know, but it's not getting okay.
Right.
I don't know. Art and art process, this is the really exciting part. It's not just my outcome. So it's not that I will say to somebody, draw how you feel. Right? We'll start with different techniques. It'll be playing with different mediums. So you were talking about pottery or visual art or acrylics, sketch pen,
Aditi,
collage.
can you give an example of the process? Take any form of art and share an example.
So it's again visual art. So visual art means all these mediums that I'm mentioning right now. Another art form would be music, which I often layer in. So the way that I work in expressive arts is we use a continuum. So we actually have multiple options available. And then you start working with the client once you've understood the history on them, then seeing what they would like to work with. Also,
when you say client, the kids, you mean?
Kids, I work with adults, I work with couples, I work with families. Art therapy has a lot of evidence in trauma-based work, in working with older adults that are, beyond their 70s, with dementia, Alzheimer's. So there's a huge range of evidence of where art therapy actually comes in. And it's very interesting. Children are the most accepted because it makes sense. Bacche to act karenge. वो तो चले गए, right? What we don't know is a lot of the other space. But coming back to it, I'll give you an example. So let's say I'm working with a couple, right? And I give them an art directive. 10 sessions into therapy, we did this. And I put a large chunk of clay in the middle of them. Large, as big as this table, right? And this is again, remember, 10 sessions in, which means we've already, they've gotten used to using art as a medium of expression, reflecting on it based on what they've created. And I asked them to find their way to each other.
Okay.
Through that. No talking. Now you dig, build, however you want to do it. Your goal is to find your way through this to each other. And it was really interesting because you could suddenly see who's digging faster, who's very tempted to talk and be like, let me do this. Someone who's like, okay, I'm talking for a second off the books. Can I take some tools? Right? So what personalities and how we communicate, are we kind, are we listening, everything that we otherwise ask someone to articulate verbally, which is usually what they think they know of themselves, versus what you see in a process unfold where you're like, I didn't realize when reflective questions are asked. It is a game changer because then somebody else is not telling you. You are doing it and telling yourself. And this is just one example. More often than not, we'll work more with visual art, with writing. We were talking about journaling earlier. Things that come easier to the adult population before easing them into me putting a block of clay between two people. So I think I can go on and on, but there are very, very powerful spaces of reconnecting with the self beyond thought and going into sensation, emotion, body, the whole self. Really.
Well, that's so fascinating. Especially what you said, what we think we are may not be what we are. And using art as a form of expression is so very important.
Also, I think giving words to the experience,
Yes.
because that's what humans carry meaningfully with them.
Right.
Because humans are that meaning-making machine all the time, right? So if we have not articulated it in the end, so
Then nothing.
I, as a therapist, observed it. And then I would verbalize and reflect on what I observed, which gives them a chance to reflect, connect modify,
Mm.
make it their own.
Reflect, connect, modify. Okay.
And until and unless they make it their own, whatever I have observed has no value.
Hmm.
Because I may observe a lot,
Hmm.
but if it is not owned up,
Hmm.
if it is not received, if it is not taken, it's of no use. Right?
This is so interesting, isn't it? Because just before the podcast started, I was sharing this example from Ramayana where it is said that Hanumanji had all the powers, but because of a curse, he forgot. And somebody had to remind him. And I think which helped him. And they say that the curse was given for a specific reason because as a kid, he became very naughty and he started using his powers, and which was not always very welcoming for people around him. But if you take that example, we all need that help at some point in time. And I completely understand that we need that help. We need that push. Because I think many a times we feel there are certain things which are not going our way. But for all you know, and we then start aligning ourselves in that thought, अब ये तो होने वाला नहीं है, ये तो होगा नहीं, मैं जो कर रहा हूँ वो गलत है. And then what happens is you just drive yourself in that path, right? And for all you know, the path you've taken probably is a positive step. And I'm not just philosophizing here. I think sometimes the multiple voices. Now, I wanted to ask you this. Like this morning, I was having a call with my best friend because he's my friend for the longest time. He lives in the US. Ben Walden. I always take his name in almost every episode. And he's told me that he's going to charge me for it now. But, we were having this conversation before the podcast. And he said to me that we have multiple voices within us. And he said, sometimes we need to give a patient hearing to each of those voices. And my counter to that was that, isn't that the very big problem when you start listening to too many voices? And, maybe the novice in me said, maybe you go crazy because of that. And he said, no, I'm not asking you to become those voices, but somewhere in some form, because, isn't it interesting that sometimes what we call as intuition, and I know I'm probably getting into a different topic, but sometimes I just have this feeling, this inkling that this is going to work. And it just works. I'm a big believer in those angel numbers. And of late, I've been seeing multiple of those angel numbers, 1111, 222, and my friend tells me, because in your mind, you saw one of those numbers and you felt it is a sign. Now you're repeating itself. It's like he told me, you want to buy a specific car and you walk out of your apartment, you will only see those cars.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right? I have a very different view of that. But I feel that in many ways, how we drive ourselves towards a certain point in our life.
So once, Santosh, there is a model called DNAV model. Okay.
A tak samajh mein aaya, V.
It's a take on training children to develop their observing selves, basically. The skill of being the noticer. Okay. So D is the discoverer, N is the noticer, A is the advisor, and V are our values, qualities that we value. Okay. So for us all, the voices, when you were saying the voices within us, the many voices, there is an advisor in all of us, which is saying, do this, don't do this, this is good for you, this is not good for you. The discoverer is taking chances.
Okay.
Deciding, I want to go with this, I do not want to go with this.
I'm going to read up on this now.
And now the noticer is noticing both these voices. But what is guided is by our values that we want to commit to.
I absolutely second that.
And that is the guiding compass. So if we do not have our values defined, our discoverer is on a loose, like they're doing random stuff. They're not meaningful. They're just going on with life. But then the idea is for children, adults, and youth to say, are you being in charge of your journey?
Yes.
Or are you, in a funny way said, are you in a zombie land? That you have no idea where you're headed.
Yeah.
It's only that you're dissatisfied of where you discover yourself are, but you do not know what will bring you satisfaction.
Yeah, because I think apart from self-love, self-care and all of those buzzwords, and I say that with a lot of respect, another word which has caught on is go with the flow, right? Just go with the flow. And I'm like, what does that even mean? What do you mean by
That
go with the
can
flow?
be very dangerous if
Isn't
I do
it?
not know where I'm headed.
And you have experts
Yeah.
making that comment, Aditi, where just go with the flow. What does that even mean? Like, I hear so many of my friends telling me, live in the present. And I just simply ask them, present ke alawa main kahan live karunga yaar? Matlab, this is the only moment there,
So
right?
then this is, where we need to be careful with the language that we internalize.
Yes.
Because a lot of times when things are said in big way, when they're presented in flashy way, you said buzzwords, when they become buzzwords,
Yeah.
sometimes we just internalize without really evaluating what it means for us.
Yeah.
So it needs, again, conscious effort.
Right.
And I think the change in, Gen Z and things we've been talking about in terms of just like social media.
Yeah.
And, there's such a bombardment of all of this.
Right.
Where it sort of, what you're saying is that it's so oversaid and overdone and in so many formats,
Right.
like the reels and the memes you're getting. That,
In fact, जो आपने पहले बोला that, that who's telling you to do something,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How a lot of this becomes new rules when we are saying we'll not follow rules.
Yeah.
But we end up following these rules, and then who's going to bust these rules?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel that somewhere when you look at the holiday spirit and why I feel that the holiday spirit is seem to be a lot different for a lot of people. Unlike me, at least growing up, where it was very simple, where all of us were sitting and, we could just, it's more funny because I was having this conversation with a friend the other day and she said she grew up in a joint family. And she says that a lot of actual open conversations could happen for her because of different people who were there in a family setup vis-a-vis a nuclear setup where, one or two people and you're really not able to express yourself at all. And it set me thinking, it's like she said joint family is probably a lot easier where it does not need to be your parents only. It could be anybody with whom you can connect and have that conversation vis-a-vis kids growing up or even families within. I don't know. I
think it just reiterates the conversation around the other.
Yes.
And I don't know if we want to dive into this, but I think it would just come back to that having people to reflect off of, to talk to, meaningful conversations, like you said, or just being able to be with and feel safe with, is just changes our resources. So then it changes how we are able to adapt and deal with anything that is to come our way at different stages. And just building off that and holiday spirit, one of the things that comes to mind is many years ago, we do this at the hospital that I work at also, is that we do a lot of events around support and supporting each other. And this particular one was, we got during holiday season a tree which was lying half dead or, plucked out at the back in the parking lot. And we went and picked it up and put it into a gamla and gathered leaves for like 2-3 days, which had fallen and were dried in all shapes and sizes. And through a period of 3 days to just celebrate the holidays, we asked anybody who was coming to visit the hospital, people who were admitted, we would go there, which was part of our well-being work that we do in any case. Anyone who was visiting a doctor, a loved one, someone who was, I remember this older lady coming out on a wheelchair post-surgery. So everyone and anyone could now paint a leaf and we were building a tree. A tree of wishes for whoever you want to give that wish to. So I could wish it for you. I could wish it for my family member, for the world. I could even wish it to myself. And we got this, I wish I could show you a picture, maybe later. Just things, wishes about what was happening in the world at that time, for a family member, someone who was unwell, for the self, for a teacher. I still remember someone saying, for my teacher not to be so strict all the time. And, it was just a very interesting thing that we did. And I think that's also one of the things to bring back or to hold on to during holiday time, is that being kind to each other, wishing for each other, supporting each other.
Absolutely. It's so wholesome, isn't it? And I think the reason why I felt this conversation was important is we've been talking about inclusivity and diversity at various platforms. And I think we need that during the holiday. That should be the holiday spirit, to be able to, I always felt that in the US when I was working, I remember when Katrina happened in Louisville, and there was a bunch of my clients in Atlanta who volunteered. And this was the first time I went. And I remembered, I don't know why I did that, but something in me told me that when I needed help, and that help had nothing to do with floods, but just the bout of emotions I went through during my undergrad days, I had people supporting me. I just took that as a reference point, and I went. And I realized that when you volunteered, helping in building houses and supporting people, just reaching out, and sometimes just going and sitting by someone who's lost their entire home and families, to just sit by them and not even tell them anything, that they have somebody they can just share their pain with. Like, I remember sitting with this grandma. She was about 72 or 73. We sat for 3 hours, me and another of my friend. We didn't say anything. By the end of the third hour, she just broke down, hugged me, and went. And I think that was the most, that experience still remains with me. And I think volunteering is such a beautiful way of, giving back. Isn't that a part of the holiday spirit? Right? Sometimes, just like last Diwali, I remember my neighbors, they are like 85 and 82. They are high school sweethearts living in Bombay. And I realized that they didn't have children and they're living a beautiful life. I just went with them to volunteer for a school. And I realized my meaning of holiday completely changed with that. So they looked at me and they said, "Do you still feel that I'm not having a cool holiday, Santosh?" Right? And for me, that was one of the reasons why this episode was also designed, is that we need to have this conversation about, when we talk about these words like inclusivity, diversity, giving, I think that should be the holiday spirit, because in that way, we are able to inspire other people to do these things.
You're almost saying to revisit what holidays have come to mean.
Yes.
And what we want them to be.
Yeah.
For each one of us.
Yes.
To redefine it,
Correct.
basically.
Yeah, I feel it's an important conversation we all need to have. I think if we, that's why I always feel that self-reflection is also about revisiting some of your own personal experiences.
Absolutely. Yes.
Because,
And again and again and again at different points.
Because,
and what if we want to make some of these are ongoing habits?
True.
Not wait for a season or an occasion where everybody else will do certain things.
Yeah.
Just reaching out to someone, giving to others, connecting with others, taking good night's sleep, eating healthy food.
Absolutely.
Exercising, all those things that we need reminders for.
Yeah.
But we say, have I done that enough? Right? Working with families and schools, I would say children are following us.
Yeah.
So if we make this a habit, we will bring around those habits.
I was having this conversation with one of my team members. He's 22 and he has, as always, the only issue they have is now relationship. And so they asked me this question, what does I love you mean? And I said, and I don't know what, just that morning, I had seen a reel on Instagram, one of the rare reels which actually caught my attention, where the person says, I love you. The word means, I love me for you. You love you for me. Right? And I simply said the same things.
Interesting.
Right? The way. And I think coming back to the topic of holiday spirit, all the things we do in many ways reflect how much we love ourselves. Isn't it? I mean, we are bitter, so we find the world bitter around
Absolutely.
us.
Yeah.
Right? And I really appreciate that you said we have to revisit the definition of holidays. But I feel this should always have been how holidays are meant to be, because it's, I think, especially in today's times when a pandemic of this nature happened, where,
एक बात बताऊं, holiday is invention of commercial side of the society.
I know.
Nature does not go on a holiday. Nature has phenomena of slowing down, hibernation, starting on with life.
Yeah, I think in late 2019-20, nature really decided to go on a break, and what happened to us after that. Because and so very true. But I think what I this is, it's just my take. Maybe I've realized it of late. As you grow and evolve, is that that if you really have to grow as a person, you have to learn to give, because in giving we receive. I mean, I'll give you a classic example. My cook Shreya, and he has enjoyed all the delicacies she makes. I mean, she makes amazing food. She's been there with me from the time I moved to Bombay. So I think early 2023 she came and said, the apartment I have been living in, the home, it's now going for sale, and she said, Bhaiya, I want to buy it. And she works at different homes cooking, and then she cooks for a school, and the apartment which fits into her budget. And she came, asked for help, and all of us in the building supported her and helped her, and she got her home. And interestingly, what happened the day she bought the home, I think a week from then, the entire society decided to go for a redevelopment. So her 1-bedroom will now become a 2-bedroom apartment, right? She's growing. So what happened was, I think just before I was leaving for Delhi, she came up to me and said that another neighbor of hers, like a friend of hers, she was able to sit down and explain to her as to why she needs to buy a home for her, and how she gathered because that person didn't have a family, neighbors and everyone, and even gave what is that term you use, guarantee or something for a bank. I mean, they did everything and helped her pool her resources. And the first thing she said is that because भैया आप लोगों ने इस बिल्डिंग में जितने लोगों ने मुझे सपोर्ट किया, मुझे ऐसा लगा कि I should also support my friend so she can have a home. And call it intuition or what, I was actually reading an essay on the art of giving at that time. And I just realized that somehow being joyful is not just about you being joyful, but the joy doubles or erupts when you see people around you being joyful.
Absolutely. It's a cycle.
Yes.
You whatever energy you're sending out into a room, even at a basic level, is what will then get picked up.
And that's what all our festivals are for, whether it is Deepavali, Navratri, Christmas, for some it has become holidays. I mean, it could be getting together with family, going out. But I feel that kind of self-reflection needs to be there when you talk about holidays or festivals. I mean, to me, that's the holiday spirit. Yeah. I mean, do I make sense?
Yeah, completely. Giving to self and other.
Yeah. Hannah? Like, I love that definition of I love me for you, you love you for me. I think that was the most brilliant definition of I love you. Right? I actually love Govinda. I think he's a great artist.
Yeah.
It's not just comedy. I just
his
love
dance moves.
Yeah. The dance moves, especially with मैं तो रस्ते. Oh my God, that's my. Life is beautiful.
Mindless.
But it's the most. I mean, isn't that the most difficult job to do?
When what she said, no, when life is happening so much around you,
Yeah.
you need that.
Yeah. For that, you should meet mom because she can just stand up in the middle of the show also, even at this age, and start. And then I would see like
You should host a podcast with her.
everybody, including he, has been telling that you
मतलब
have to
एक तो
get.
करना ही होगा.
करना होगा.
Now
Yeah.
that we know so much.
Yes. Holidays, and let's do some rapid fire. Are you guys ready?
Go for it.
Who should I start with? Okay.
Anyone. Okay, I can go.
Favorite holiday movie?
Oh my God. No favorite holiday. Okay, I'll tell you what happens to me. Holiday season comes. All those flu-fla Christmas movies, I'll watch all of you.
All the Hallmark
All
movies?
of you. Everything
Yeah,
I'll watch.
kind of.
Yeah.
A holiday song that resonates with you?
Jingle Bell Rock makes me very, very happy.
I'm not giving any.
Real tree or artificial tree?
Artificial. Survives for decades. In my house has been one tree for 30 years. Still there.
Real.
I'm yet to
tree.
come to you.
Real.
Don't take over my.
No, real. Then every year poor thing will be chopped and die and then have to be chop another
It was
one
a
and
rapid
break.
fire. It is
oh,
supposed to
sorry.
be a rapid
yeah,
fire,
you
okay.
can't explain yourself. Okay,
I don't
artificial.
even know what am I doing as a host
My
here.
30-year-old artificial tree.
Best holiday tradition you look forward to each year?
Ay, they're different depending on the holidays, but I think for me it's setting up the tree with my family. One year in COVID, I cried when they did it without me, and my brothers and my family got together and did it, and I couldn't go.
The best gift you've ever received during the holidays?
It's very, very classic, but yeah, I think finally, like having my kid, which was a surprise and unplanned thing, was, I mean, nothing like that human that's come into my life, who happened to come in and around holiday season.
Awesome. Holiday baby.
Holiday baby.
Favorite Bollywood movie which you can watch multiple times?
So many. I was a 90s baby and very much at that point a hardcore Shah Rukh Khan fan.
You
So
still are?
all of that. Old school. The 90s filmography, minus the critical mind as mine was then. If I can sit down and go back and just like...
What's your favorite Shah Rukh Khan movie?
Bazigar.
Okay. I'm also a Shah Rukh Khan fan, by the way. Best way to celebrate New Year's Eve? Party or cozy night in?
Cozy night in. Bonfire, home, family.
Favorite New Year Eve's memory?
Bonfire, home, family.
You can't have the same answer for both.
Arey, but it's true. Favorite. Sitting, singing, songs. I mean, playing the guitar. It was just...
What's the ideal way to spend the first day of the new year?
Waking up and going to work.
Really?
Yeah, I learned this from my boss of now some 13, 12 years. It was interesting, but it's kind of like do on the first day of the year what you want to do for the rest of the year. And fortunately, I'm again, like I said, blessed to love my work. So,
favorite winter activity, non-holiday?
Winter.
Warm chocolate, hot chocolate, chai, coffee, just drinking warm things and being able to sit and read. If I have a cozy corner available, then that. If I have a noisy house available, then that. But just being able to take out some time to do that.
The
if I
first
can.
real answer she gave. Best thing about winter?
So cheap, it's derailed me. Okay. Best thing about winter.
Yes.
Warm clothes.
Favorite memory from the past year?
That's a very tough one. Favorite I'll come back. This is bad rapid fire moment. Favorite memory? How do you do favorite?
You can have a favorite memory from the past year.
From the past year.
I'll come to you.
I'm thinking.
You're still waiting on me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Patience is my second name, so yeah. I'm
Favorite
waiting.
memory from the past.
There must be something, no?
There's lots.
Yeah. There has to
There-
be one favorite. Favorites नहीं होती है कोई.
Okay,
Favorite.
now, this just came into. It took a while, but I think one morning, which is clearer in my head, but multiple mornings of me, my partner, and my kid dancing before all of us go to work and school and whatever. Just like because she loves to dance and just dancing to some random songs which were from nursery rhymes to like Punjabi to Bollywood to Jingle Bells, whatever, you name it, and we did it. And it was like a 30-minute dance party before everyone had to go wherever they went. And we do that often, but I think the first time it organically happened, super memory.
Another authentic answer.
Thanks.
Most anticipated goal or plan for the upcoming year?
Most anticipated goal or plan? I think really to continue to live with what I've learned this year, and not this year, just the last 3 years perhaps, which is it's okay to live in balance and to work and to take out time to pause consciously and be like, I will take a break. I will not travel beyond this point, and give enough time to myself and all the pieces of my life that I want to and I like to. And I just really, really hope I continue to have the privilege to hold that space for myself.
Okay. Awesome.
Authentic number 3?
Let's not.
He's confused.
No, let's not.
Okay.
That's okay. One word. The last question. One word to describe your hopes for the new year.
Balance.
Okay. All right. Geetika ma'am, here we go.
Come. Let's do it.
Favorite holiday movie? So unlike other rapid fire rounds, we don't have different questions for different guests.
Same. Holiday movie. So, cancel that. I don't have any.
I'm going to give you brownie points for being authentic, not in a authentic way, but take it. I'm sure you'll have a favorite holiday movie. Something which you like to watch.
Keep pushing. I don't have an answer.
Okay.
Move on.
Cool. A holiday song that resonates with you.
A song that resonates with me is...
Not a holiday song. Okay.
किसी की मुस्कुराहटों पे हो निसार.
Okay. Real tree or artificial tree?
Real.
Best holiday tradition you look forward to each year?
Lighting diyas.
My favorite too. Best gift you have ever received during the holidays?
So, gifting and me doesn't go very well together. So,
I'm asking about the gifts you've received. So they don't give you because you don't give all gifts?
no, I think, again, very consciously, deliberately, we are not kept up with gifting, receiving and gifting.
So you've never received any gift?
No, we've been receiving, but I think how I have been with my loved ones is that we find many such moments throughout the year. So when you're coming around to holiday, I'm like, we don't do it like that.
So if there was a gift hamper, I think just looking at your answers, we know who's going to get the hamper. The Christmassy dressed lady on the left.
Oh, I'll get it. Oh, because
I thought you were winning it by like just being. I was like,
Okay. Favorite
Fan
Bollywood
club.
movie which you can watch multiple times?
Jab we met.
Okay. I would watch that multiple times. Best way to celebrate New Year's Eve? Party or cozy night in?
Cozy night.
Favorite New Year Eve's memory?
Favorite. I think sitting at home with everyone, just chatting.
Really, both my guests, huh? They are just such homebodies, huh?
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, so it was from your birth I asked, not just now.
But now it's favorite.
It's standing out.
Now it's, yeah.
Ideal way to spend the first day of the new year?
Being my best working self.
Okay. Favorite winter activity, non-holiday related?
Favorite winter activity. I mean, I'm not a fan of winters, but like being out in the sun. I just love it.
Picnics. Sorry, I just thought.
Best thing about winter?
I do not like winters. The best thing about winters when the sun is out and I am feeling active and energized.
I think I'm damn good at this rapid fire. Favorite memory from the past year?
Favorite memory. I think discovering so many sides of me. I just loved it.
That's awesome. Most anticipated goal or plan for the upcoming year?
Most anticipated, I think. There are multiple conferences I want to go to.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make that happen.
It has already happened. That's it. One word to describe your hopes for the new year?
Hopes.
Mm-hmm.
I think peace within.
Okay. Peace within. And clearly we don't have any winner. So I would just take this forward. I have questions which for the both of you to wrap up this episode. If someone is not feeling grateful or joyful during these holidays and beyond, what message do you have for them?
So someone is not feeling grateful and joyful, noticing the pain that is showing up within right now, allowing that pain to sit. Whatever is most close to heart and meaningful, take that action. Don't think too much. Because when the pain is very strong, sometimes we lose sight of what we actually started with.
True.
So finding what we were moving towards, get in touch with that. Take
Aditi?
any small step.
Aditi, you want to add to this?
Yeah, I think the same, but what came into my head was just be. Don't push to be grateful or thankful if it's been a hard year or a hard 2 years or a hard 10 years and you don't feel it. You don't feel it. We don't have to feel things a certain way or do things a certain way. And I think that starting point of being kind to yourself and acknowledging your context, your circumstance, and just where you're at, that starting point will start then opening the doors for what you asked earlier, which is, maybe the next year, how will life evolve? Holding on to all these challenging experiences I've had as part of now my story as I go along.
Yeah, I really want to add to this is, I think my life took a turn from 2016 December onwards, and then dads and many other personal instances. But I think what really kept me going is the fact that inherently I'm a very hopeful person, optimistic person. And I always believe that, इसके बाद अच्छा ही होगा. I just feel that way. I believe in visualizing a lot because only when you visualize can you actualize it. So at least that's my way of looking at things.
Yeah. And that makes me think of find what works for you.
Yes.
Because it'll be different for each person.
Absolutely.
And the minute you hit on that, hold it.
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question is, how do you navigate the holiday season when you are not particularly joyful or grateful? How do we do that? How do we navigate through this? Of course, you've just said that we have to acknowledge, but we still have to go through that. What are your thoughts on that?
So know that whatever is prevalent around you does not define you. You don't have to carry all of that. Noises around us, especially when it's holiday and everybody is, going certain way, can make us doubt what we are going towards. So knowing that that's not defining us, we could have a different journey and getting in touch with that journey. So noise around us, if it's too loud, zone it out.
And there is always help around.
There's always help around.
And there are the boundaries to be built, including knowing. So very sort of example based thing of, let's say lots of things are happening and you're a college student or you're a young working professional and you're not feeling like it, but there are lots of these things that your friends are organizing or your family, but you don't want to go, or you do want to go, but somewhere along the way it's not seeming like it's not giving you joy. My thought would be, find what makes you comfortable, what version of going through this season, whatever it's supposed to look like for you, is actually what feels safe. Two, remember that can change. So I might go somewhere and half an hour in I might realize I can't. Leave. It's okay to listen to yourself and check in with yourself at different points, particularly at this time, because the things we struggle with come in waves. So I might be feeling great today and I might, be like, today I'm going to conquer this day and this is what it's looking like. But somewhere in the middle, suddenly it's not. It's okay to see that, hear that in yourself, and then say, okay, now I need to go home and cry or drink hot chocolate or watch Christmas movies.
And accepting that this is happening.
Yeah.
A lot of times we also get upset with ourselves that why am I like this? Why can't I just enjoy? Especially I think when good things are happening around us, we kind of almost hate ourselves for being sad. So accepting that this is what's showing up and it's okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
or the opposite. Sorry, but when you're really happy and then suddenly you're like, I should not be this happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So much as this is not okay, And I think it's a very hard dance to.
Yeah.
So true. And for me, I think everything begins with gratitude, being grateful for where we are. I always feel that way. And coming to gratitude, could both of you share strategies or tools for finding moments of gratitude, even in challenging times? And I'll keep it during the holidays, but I think it goes beyond the holidays.
Aditi, give us some art
So I think,
medium.
Yeah. So I think art is creativity is an amazing way of showing ourselves, our loved ones, gratitude and keeping that reminder prevalent, because I think it's very anchored in nature and in what we do, right? That's where art has its roots, where it started from. Colors were made from like minerals and things that we played with. People made images in sand and stone. So I think going back to our roots and being able to, whether it's, now it's become like a little positive journal to the self, etc. But beyond that, being able to express what you're feeling perhaps in an art medium, whether it's collaging, whether it's keeping a journal, whether it's writing a letter to someone. I feel like we've lost that art, just a letter to someone you care about or someone you haven't spoken to in a long time, to yourself. A letter to myself, perhaps, to be whatever, to say what I'm feeling. And that's a very powerful tool, actually, letter to the body or a letter to the self.
So true.
Yeah. And just
Letter to our old selves.
old selves.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Future self.
Is powerful.
Yeah, because when you write a letter to your old self, a lot of things come. Future self ko to hum likhenge, because many times we are envisaging this. That reminds me, at some point in my life when I used to be dating someone, my way of doing things was sticky notes. Little notes I would write. And I realized that I actually was not writing it for my partner. It was more from my perspective.
Yeah.
But I think that's great. But I feel that what gratitude also allows us, and correct me if I'm wrong, is in many ways it also helps us detach ourselves a lot from the outcome. Because, we are grateful for what we have. And, no matter what the outcome is, keep doing your job, go with the process. Just a thought.
And also, I think, especially if things are not going our way, we tend to become over-focused on what is not right.
Right.
And that's the survival instinct of humans, right? That we want to scan out the problems. We want to know how to evade all of the struggles of life. So gratitude is that way of being in touch with all is not bad.
Yes.
There's so much okay around us.
I think when you wake up in the morning and you have a life, because I am a possibilitarian, I feel that anything is possible if we are alive and we are breathing. So I just feel that. Okay, what advice do you have for someone who may be struggling to feel festive or appreciative during this time of the year?
We don't have to feel festive.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Feel
Don't.
what you're feeling. And just stay with it.
Do you recommend any specific activities people can do? Uh,
No, we wouldn't push for festivity. If you're not, because then that will become, what am I asking someone to do? I'm asking you to shut down what you're actually feeling, and then the journey to feeling something, or like you said, whether it's positivity, gratitude, hope, joy, it is exactly that, always a journey. So there can't be the more upar ka things. If we give up, it's like band-aids, right? You put a band-aid, but that can only hold so long. So I think as therapists, it's very hard to have one of us be like,
Go for it.
huh.
Also, I would add, wherever anybody is, and if you're feeling too down and listless and not having hope to move forward, do reflect on what you really value in life. Whether it's people, whether it's events, whether it's part of your life, and get into some action. Do some action. Because more we stay still in one place, humans have this tendency to get loopy in our heads. And then we're looping around only one kind of things. So, and also reminding ourselves of gratitude in those moments. We'll actually have to dig it out. It's not going to show up.
Yeah, because you see at different platforms, interviews where people say, shift your mindset to a gratitude mindset. But it's easier said than done, right? I mean, imagine. I feel. I mean, that way. I think I shared with both of you guys just before getting into the studio what where I was December 2022 and where I am in December 2023. World of difference.
Yeah.
Health wise, personal life wise, professionally, because I was still thinking whether I should do this or not. And I think somewhere apart from people around us, it's something which we'll have to do ourselves, despite everyone around us, right? That shift in mindset cannot come otherwise. We'll have to make ourselves in some way,
So, my advice is actually do something.
Okay.
Try
Action.
something out. Do some action and let that movement happen.
Yeah.
Just move.
Okay.
And since it's between us, even the podcast, I think if you are on the other side of it, so if you are friends and family and you start noticing someone is struggling or there's a shift there, when they do try and commit to action, be there to hold and support and ask and listen. I think that's also equally important. When someone actions and doesn't get that, then we fall back further. So it's not just when you're not feeling okay, it's when someone around you is not feeling okay. How do you learn to respond to this person in your life can be game changing.
That's a beautiful reminder.
Thank you so much, Aditi, especially for bringing out Between Us. And by the way, before it became Between Us, the title of the podcast, the working title of the podcast was Ask and Listen with Santosh. So thank you for, bringing that out. Awesome. I really am very grateful for Geetika. Thank you. And for getting Aditi on the show. I think my personal message to everyone is, despite everything, stay hopeful, stay positive, believe in the possibilities of life, and whatever your faith is, God, religion, whatever it is, just have that faith, and know that this too shall pass. Thank you to both of you. And thank you to everyone for listening in. Happy holidays. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to this episode of the Between Us podcast. This podcast was recorded at Ferris Wheel Studios in Gurgaon. The Between Us podcast uploads episodes weekly, and we'll see you next time.